All right, here we are, episode 2, after a long hiatus.
Yes.
So, I've been in Italy for the last month, which is why I haven't been around to do this. What have you been up to?
Dreaming about being in Italy.
It is a dream, and when you come back, you realize we don't even cook pasta the right way.
No, how do they cook pasta in Italy?
They don't. We overcook it here. It's more.
They like al dente.
Yeah.
So if they threw it against a wall, it wouldn't stick. It would put a dent in the wall.
No, it's not quite that bad, but it's like someone, a friend was asking me today, like, so is our Italian similar to theirs? It's like, no, it basically has no similarity whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anything is like anyplace else. Did you ever see that documentary? Is it like Searching for General So? It's something like that. It's called. I think it's called Searching for General So or Seeking General So or something like that. Or am I thinking of this?
Oh, it's about Chinese food?
Yes, because the documentarian, the filmmaker, decided that he wanted to know who is this General So, who's famous General So's chicken.
My favorite.
Yeah. So he, started on this long quest that actually ended up in China. But it's actually more of a story about Chinese immigrants and food.
And
And
how they brought it here.
No, what happens is generally, so spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. So generally what happens is, when Chinese migrate to the United States, or immigrate to the, is it immigrate? Yeah, I guess.
Immigrate.
Migrate, I guess they would do it only when it's cold, right? Or hot. I don't know. But anyway, when they come here, they generally, and this is obviously there are exceptions, there are people who come over here for school and this and that, but these are just like your everyday blue collar, immigrants. But when they come here, they usually hook up with I'm not sure if it's a tribal or provincial sort of support system. So it's a club from their province.
Right.
And these clubs help set them up in business, and a lot of times it's food. So they already have menus. That's why when you go to Chinese places in New York, all the small kind of hole-in-the-wall places, they all have the same menus. It's because they're given those menus by these centers and basically told how to cook the dishes in a way that appeals to most Americans. So, and then it's interesting because he also talked about like when they go other places, aside from like New York. So like when they go to Missouri was one example. They create, like this Chinese comfort food basically that's more Midwestern than Chinese. So anyway. Yeah, so we don't really cook anything if you were to go to that.
Another interesting immigration story that before we get into some other things, but there's this story amongst Italians, but also other immigrants, other ethnicities, other nationalities, who the families came here and they changed their name, like an Italian name would be like Primavera.
Right.
Which is not a name, it's a season. It doesn't make any sense for someone to have that name.
Or they would change it to Primavera?
Right.
Okay.
There are other examples, like on my stepfather's side of the family, there's German, and the name was von Hugel-Schaffman, and they took out the von Hugel and just became Schaffman when they came here. And the enduring myth is that the racist officials at Ellis Island stripped people of their names when they came here and changed it. They made it, Americanized it, or stripped things out of it. Absolutely not true. They recorded the name as is, and what happened was the families themselves changed the names to Americanize them, but then later on, the grandparents felt shame. They felt shameful that they did it, and so they lied to their children and grandchildren and told them, oh, no, Ellis Island, they did that because,
Well, I think that, I mean, in previous generations, when people would come to the United States, I think it was very common for them to want to anglicize their names and blend in as quickly as possible. Now that, there's certainly been, I think, a shift in that. But you still see it with people in Hollywood, people taking, screen names or stage names and things like that, where I think that it's less about not wanting to sound, have an ethnic sounding name as it is just for convenience, shortening the name or making it, more catchy for,
Right. Or, in some cases, names that just like Americans can't pronounce.
Right, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just, again, because I live produced this thing, just shooting out our URL out onto the interweb so people can come and watch if they want, since we're live streaming.
But they've already missed so much. They won't know. They won't know the history of General Tso's.
They can rewind after it's over. They can go back and check it out. The internet is forever.
All right. Well, make sure that you rewind this then, because you missed out on Food Talk, which is everybody's favorite.
Hey, you want to do Food Talk? I want, if it weren't against the terms of service of YouTube, full frontal male nudity, that's immortal. Once it's on the internet, it's there forever, and future generations might want to see it. They might be curious.
What, full frontal nudity?
Full frontal male nudity. How do you feel about that? You're an actor.
I mean, I was a Navy diver and Army Ranger before I was an actor, so obviously full frontal male nudity has never been an issue with me.
Here we go. So anyway, for the rest of you who are just joining us, thank you. And I watched this YouTube channel grow to almost 800 subscribers already, which is pretty amazing considering I only had 2 episodes up there. One was you and I.
Right.
Right now, for the time being, it's still called the Jack Murphy live stream or the Murphy's Law live stream, and maybe the listeners can chime in with their ideas, but since you and I are going to do this together, I don't think I need a name that's quite so narcissistic. And honestly, I picked that name because I made this thing up as we went along.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes sometimes.
I mean, if we want to take sort of that focus off of you, we could probably just call it the Dave Parke.
The Dave Parke show? Yeah, we can do that.
I'm humble, so it won't affect me at all. So Jack and I have a dilemma in a way. You probably can't see it, but we're sitting at a table and we've got stacks and stacks of D&D books because this is where we game.
That's how we roll.
That's how we roll. We've also been discussing a lot of comics lately, along with the news, and
it's a question of do we put it all on one show or do we divide it up? Because there's some people who they're typically used to me talking about military stuff.
Right. And for those of you who don't know, we're both veterans. We both served as Army Rangers, and then Jack was also Green Beret, Army Special Forces, and I had been a Navy diver prior to being a Ranger, and then also a Marine prior to that. But I was a reservist, so I don't say that often because I don't feel as though I earn too much of it. But so we can talk about military stuff and have on military guests. We can talk about the news. We can talk about gaming and comics and geek stuff because we're probably going to do that anyway. If not in this, then in another one.
Yeah. There is another. I'm thinking that the more hardcore nerd stuff that not necessarily the entire audience is interested in. We have another YouTube channel called. Let me pull it up real quick for you. It's Arcadia. I think it's Arcadia Games, but that's where all that other RPG stuff is going to be parked at.
Now, where the gaming comes in a little bit. I've been gaming since I was in junior high.
Arcadia Gaming on YouTube, and I'll post a link in the description later.
Where the gaming comes in is Jack and I are working on a project to promote tabletop gaming. We play Dungeons and Dragons, but any kind of RPG, even board games, really. But I like the in-depth. We like the in-depthness of RPG.
Maybe we can evolve into video games at some point, but really, RPGs.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're kind of pushing and focusing on with a project called Mandatory Fun is that one of the biggest problems for veterans, especially combat veterans returning, is reassimilating into society, because you go to this one thing that, I don't know, I don't know too many of us who think it was horrible. I mean, civilians probably think that, oh, it must have been horrible. I think that for a lot of us, it was more like the time of our life in certain ways.
Oh, being in the military? Yeah.
And more so being in combat.
It's interesting to see, because there's this whole dynamic of like what was going on at the time and what you knew at the time and how you felt. And then there's after the fact. Like, some people hated being in the military, but they love it after they get out.
Right.
There are other people who come out of the military and, forgive me, they assume more of like a left-wing ideology, and they have negative feelings about their time in the military.
Sure.
Or they feel as if they were used. There's people like me. I mean, I wrote this whole book about it, so I mean, I'm not going to go all at length about it, but I mean, I look back on it even today, and I mean, absolutely, I had a hell of a good time.
Exactly.
You know, so some guys on Facebook group got me talking. You know, it's like I'm a crotchety history teacher that you get talking and you derail them. They got me talking about like drinking stories down at Columbus, Georgia, and you know, it just goes downhill from there.
That was actually my biology teacher in high school. I don't even know how old he was. I believe his name was Mr. Banks. He had hearing aids. He was a World War II veteran. And if we wanted to, like, not to waste time in class, because I was always fascinated, but if we wanted to get off classroom topics, all we had to do was ask him about something like, what kind of food did you eat when you were over in Europe? Or actually, I believe he was a Marine, so he was in the Pacific. But like, what kind of, and he would just start telling stories, and I mean, they were amazing.
Just on and on.
Yeah, and they were amazing stories. I mean, he's talking about. I remember one story he was talking about like fishing with hand grenades, and he was just chuckling up a storm, like remembering it. But anyway, so one of the things that a lot of veterans face is you were in one type of place, and in particular, you were in a place that recognized you basically based on your performance, and there wasn't, there weren't false. Okay. Maybe there were, but there wasn't the emphasis on sort of false social structures or clout or things like that. Either you were good or you weren't good. Everybody had a hall file, your reputation. And then you come out into the civilian world, and one, you don't have the camaraderie. I think the camaraderie is difficult to find here in the civilian world. And there's a purpose in the military, like your job, it's always spelled out. This is your mission, and you perform your mission.
And it's like so important what you're doing. Like there's a life and death stakes all the time.
Right, and I mean, and that particularly holds true, I think, for for people who've been in combat and whatnot, but even for like a mechanic or a cook. Like, cooks are the hardest working people in the military, I think. Like
that F-35 needs a lot of maintenance for it. Yeah, do your job, it's going down.
So one of the things, and then also, so one of the things that happens when people transition from the military is they start to feel isolated, a lot of them, and they find themselves adrift. And so one of the things, because really when we have a circle of friends or whatever, like, we build up these shared experiences, and also like generally the people that you hang out with or the people that you meet are people in which you share experiences. So whether it's the same type of music and you guys hang out and talk about music or go to band, whatever. And so I think a lot of military people get out of the military and find themselves not having common ground with other people or shared experiences, and seeing the world differently. And even if politically they're aligned, they still your experiences just aren't the same. So one of the things that Jack and I advocate for is this idea of tabletop gaming, basically because it doesn't. If you're sitting around and role playing, then you're building a common experience amongst you and the people at the table. And it doesn't matter who went to college, who went to the military, who went to jail. None of that matters. None of that matters. You're building a common experience. So it's a way for military people to, for veterans to create new social circles and new experiences.
It's a way for people, I think people in general even, with drastically different life backgrounds to meet and interact with one another in a friendly environment.
Yeah, 100%.
And relate to one another. And I play it with my daughter all the time.
Yeah.
And we live in this world and we talk about it all the time,
right?
Where everyone's looking down at their screens, they're watching Netflix, they're at their computer, they're looking at their cell phone. But it's a way to actually interact with other people and sit down and have fun.
Right.
And do something.
I know that, for instance, with my dad, he related to his dad by way of baseball. His dad liked baseball, and so even though my dad wasn't really into sport, well, maybe he was when he was younger, but that was something that he used or realized was a way to engage, his dad. So, when we're creating the experiences, we're building, bridges of communication and ways to sort of relate with other people and ways to connect. So, anyway, we don't want to talk too much about gaming on this channel, but we just kind of want to...
Yeah, absolutely. Plug it and throw it out there, and that's like a whole separate endeavor. It's Arcadia Gaming is the YouTube channel, and you can go look at it now, and there's 5 episodes of us just playing and BS.
Yeah, I will caution you that we are not the most enthralling group at the moment. But
it's a work in progress.
Yeah,
and we'll continue doing other stuff with that.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, like I said, I was really surprised and grateful that this stream already has almost 800 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you have, make sure you hit the bell icon. I was reading up on this. Apparently, if you don't hit the bell icon for notifications, there's only a 16% chance that you will see new videos when they come up. So if you think this is cool, if you subscribed and it's something you're interested in, you probably want to get notifications. Otherwise, you won't necessarily know when there's new videos.
Yeah, I think it's kind of common. Well, maybe not, but YouTube has completely changed their algorithms. They are stripping away promotion basically for independent contributors. Now, most of the time, in my recommended for you feed, I get Fox, CNN, MSNBC.
It's going corporate.
Yeah, it's going way corporate.
Well, that's what happened when Facebook went public, immediately.
Yeah. So, and eventually they'll just lose all their makers and their creators, and they'll migrate to another platform. Look at MySpace. How many people got MySpace? Well, most of you probably two.
Don't even remember.
2 years remember.
I got MySpace stories. I'll tell you later. Come talk to me.
And we all have MySpace stories. And then Friendster before that, right?
Oh no, I was never a part of that one.
Yeah, so
I don't remember that.
So yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, so welcome to that weird part of the internet. Congratulations on finding it. Here you are.
Yes.
One of the things we were recently talking about was comic books. And, before we go down a bunch of dark back alleyways as far as current events and stuff like that, I wanted to ask you, what was your first comic book? Do you remember?
No. No, I have no idea. No, because back in the 80s, you could buy comic books at the 7-Eleven. You could buy comic books almost anywhere.
In my case, the corner store, and there's a little alcove, in the back, and they have just one shelf that big with comic books on it.
And up above it was were all Playboys and house stores with
a lot of
with covers that concealed and you're always like, oh.
Well, I was like 7 at the time, so I didn't even know.
Okay.
I didn't even know that I had a junk yet. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
it wasn't on my mind at that point.
Yeah. Late bloomer, huh?
No, just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. I was telling you that. So I went back home a few weeks ago, and I was going through a bunch of stuff my mom had for me that she had stored over the years, and my comic collection was one of those. And I hadn't seen these comics for like over 30 years, and going through them was just like, it was amazing because I remember I told you like I have X-Men '94, which for those of you who don't know is a big key issue in the X-Men collection because it's where the new X-Men come in. Like the old X-Men was Iceman, Angel, Human Torch, I think Cyclops, and Beast, I believe.
In the first X-Men comics, Iceman, the first like 6 issues, I think, he was actually a snowman.
I remember,
Like you remember the first one, he's throwing a snowball.
Yeah, I remember that, but only because I've seen it.
I've read the reprints.
Yeah,
and he it was like around issue 6 or something. He learned how to like turn himself into like a solid block of ice.
Yeah.
Before that, he was like a fucking snowman.
Yeah.
Really.
So anyway, it's funny because I remember buying X-Men '94. Like there are some things that I remember buying because they were so meaningful to me. I was a huge X-Men fan, and it's funny because when the first X-Men movie came out, I was a little torqued that like they had mixed old and new, and it wasn't canon and this and that, but it was also like a dream come true because I remember going to this tiny little comic and game convention in Wichita, Kansas, where I grew up, with my friends that I used to like play D&D with and everything. And I remember thinking, how awesome it would be if there was ever an X-Men movie, but there was but the technology wasn't there at the time.
And if you remember pre-internet, there was that magazine, I think it was called Wizard.
Oh yeah.
And it was all about comics.
Yeah.
For the most part, it was about comics. And they would like cast the movies, like if they did an X-Men movie. And Patrick Stewart was always cast in those things to play Professor X, which ended up happening.
And Grace Jones, or Grace,
the black actress?
Yeah.
From Conan.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And one of the James Bond movies.
Yes.
But she was always kind of cast to be Storm.
Storm, yeah. Halle Berry was a good cast.
Yeah, no, I agree. But Grace just had like this fierceness.
Yeah. She was like strong.
Yeah. So anyway, with X-Men '94, like I remember saving up for like 2 months to buy that, and I don't even have like a great copy of it because at the time it was like $200, which was just for a 16-year-old a lot of money.
But did you actually put on the white gloves and read it with the tweezers?
No, because I wasn't.
It just stayed inside.
I wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking about that at the time. I don't know if I ever read it. I was just too. A reader.
It was just in the shrine.
Yes. Yeah. But I bought the whole Moon Knight series all in one, fell swoop because I was just crazy about Moon Knight. The whole Vista Khonshu.
I remember Moon Knight, but I was never like super into him. My first love was X-Men, but I was a little bit after you, so I was in the 1980s. I was in the 1990s, or early 1990s, when X-Men split off, and there was the Uncanny X-Men, and then there was X-Men. So there's the gold team and the blue team, and I can't remember specifically. Like the new team, I think was Cyclops, Gambit, Wolverine, Psylocke, Jubilee, and then the old team was like Storm, Archangel. But I can't remember, man.
So do you say Arch or Arc?
I think it's Arch. I should be Archangel, I believe.
Because I hear people. I always say Arc, but even with like Archdemon or Archfiend, things like that. I always
yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah, or Arc Demon, Arc Fiend. Yeah,
right.
If anybody knows, please let us know because I don't. Education was never my strong point. It's like they used to say, there are smart rangers and there are strong rangers.
There's a CH there. I don't want to pronounce it, damn it.
So, but you were also really into the Punisher.
Yeah, I was really into later on. I wasn't reading the Punisher so much when I was 7, 8, 9. But I think by the time I was like 11, 12, I started buying Punisher comics, buying Punisher War Journal, Punisher War Zones, another series that came out. And then by the time then they canceled the Punisher actually for a while because it really went downhill. Then they brought it back. There's like a mini series where it's like the Punisher's come back from the dead and he's like an angel and he's killing bad guys with like angel bullets and they're like total flop.
Yeah.
Horrible idea. So the Punisher just went away for quite a while. And then when I was in high school, they brought Garth Ennis in to unfuck the series.
Yeah.
And he did. Those were like the golden years of the Punisher.
Yeah.
That character was finally what everyone wanted him to be.
Right.
And he has a fucking amazing run writing the Punisher for years.
Now let me ask you: Do you think that your enjoyment of the Punisher or your fascination with him or whatever? Do you think that influenced your decision to go in the military, or do you think that you were sort of already going that direction, whether you knew it or not, and that was your attraction to the Punisher?
I think it's the latter. I think I was already kind of going that direction.
Yeah.
The Punisher interested me in the same way that way later on Batman interested me because it's like this is an actual human being,
right? That's
doing like these like wild shit,
right?
And I think as a superhero, Batman's probably my favorite because he's I don't know like
he's the world's greatest detective,
right? And he's a person just trained to this like very high level,
right?
Unlike Superman, which is very difficult to relate to because he's basically like a living god.
Right. Yeah, and that, I think that, at least for me growing up, that, like, I never really got into DC Comics because...
Neither did I.
Because their characters were so clean and their Marvel was always dealing with stuff, or their characters were, sometimes it was drug habit, or if it wasn't a drug habit for the character, it was, in the neighborhood, or, there were always things going on, and like you could connect with these characters. And it's interesting because even though it's not the same people that are responsible for it, I feel as though the movies have done the exact same thing. That Marvel has built, has taken its time. Like if you watch Captain America #1, it's not, I don't know that you walk out of that going, that's an amazing movie. You walk out of it going, that was a really good foundation. Like that was a needed movie because
it was a good issue in the series.
Exactly. We're on board. They built this world. We understand who he is, who Steve Rogers is, and now we identify with him, and we know why he, will never tolerate a bully, why, all these things. Whereas DC, both in their comics and also in their movies, they just kind of like throw it out and go, this is the world and you have to accept it,
Well, that's what Marvel did for years. I mean, they made a lot of shitty movies. And I shouldn't say Marvel, but
the Frank Studios
were making really shitty movies about Marvel characters.
Yeah.
Because there was a previous Captain America movie, I believe. There was definitely...
Was it like the 70s or the 80s, I think?
There's a Punisher movie with Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, with the boot knife.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the motor, yeah, oh, yeah.
There's a slew of shitty movies. And, when they finally kind of gave the fans what they wanted and like respected the fact that, you're making this series, it's a serialized epic.
Yeah.
And once they, bought into that idea, it took off.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know, but do you have, because I do you have an affinity for characters who are veterans?
Not necessarily. I never really thought of it like that.
Okay.
I really like The Punisher, and part of the reason why I like The Punisher is specifically because he was a Vietnam War veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with later on as a teenager, I read their like military fiction, Pulp Fiction before that, the Mac Bolan series.
Mm-hmm.
And Mac Bolan was a Vietnam veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I've always been fascinated by that war in particular. And growing up as a kid, I got to meet Vietnam veterans and hear some of their stories about, crazy patrols out in the jungle.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it was definitely like talking to the veterans of that war. It was something else. Now, I mean, not taking anything away from World War I and World War II, because they, like when you look at the body counts and and things like that, like, and think about World War I and trench warfare and no man's land and the constant like waiting and all that, and then I mean, it's just each war has been so very different.
And Garth Ennis had a very interesting take on the Vietnam War too, because he wrote a couple series also about flashbacks to Frank Castle in Vietnam, and he points out that the Vietnam War is kind of the place that the American dream really came unwound. Like that was kind of the beginning, where all of these social problems came out, where we lost the war for the first time really. And it's like the American dream really started coming apart at the seams.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting take on the war.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, one could argue whether whether America was already the American dream. And I still believe the American dream exists. And there are definitely complications to it now.
Yeah, it's harder to snatch it up.
It is. I mean, look, it used to be that everybody could buy a house and have a one-income family and live a relatively, comfortable life.
Those days are long over.
Yes. But
now you've got both the husband and the wife with master's degrees making six-figure jobs and still struggling sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. But it's interesting to wonder whether or not America started to come apart, or get to our current state because of the war, or if the war was more a reflection of what was already happening in America.
Yeah, of the underlying issues that were already there.
Right.
You're right, because I mean things like racial issues and things like that were just glossed over. I mean, they were always there, obviously.
Right.
They were just coming to the forefront.
Right. Because we don't talk about it often, but we could also look at the Korean War as another, like we did not commit in the Korean War, just like we didn't commit in the Vietnam War, to victory, to an idea of what victory would look like or what victory would mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was a famous firing with MacArthur. He wanted to push all the way to China.
Mm-hmm.
They call it the Forgotten War for a reason.
Right, absolutely. So let's talk about, as a veteran, let's talk about the Punisher series, TV series.
Oh my god! Oh, dude! Oh.
So if you're not a
the Netflix series,
yes. So if you're not a veteran, particularly if you haven't been in special operations or like with ESU or SWAT or something like that, I will caution you to never watch an action movie with somebody who was, because the slightest things piss us off.
For me, it depends on the tone of the film.
Well, me too.
Like, I can go watch Die Hard.
Yeah,
and it's not realistic.
100%.
But it's totally fun to watch.
Yes, 100%. And even what was the shoot 'em up with? I think Clive Owen.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, or Wanted, right, with Angelina Jolie. Like nobody can, but I can accept that because that's the world they've created.
Right. It's a fictional. It's a fictional fun world.
Right.
A fun action film.
Right.
But if you try to do something that's supposed to be real, it's supposed to be authentic, then you kind of have to have your shit together.
Right. And the thing is, like, I think that's something that, John Wick brought to the forefront. right? Have you seen John Wick?
I've seen the first one, and I started watching the second one, and I kind of fell asleep.
Yeah, the second one was fine, but I feel like the second one, and the third one's a lot of fun too. But
Is it?
I think the third one is more fun than the second one because the second one basically was like, hey, this worked, so let's do more of this.
Yeah.
So where in the first one all the fight scenes were super fast and super dynamic, the second one they like drug out the scenes so that you would get more of that, but they just went. And the third one they kind of suffered that issue a little bit too, where these scenes would just go on and on and on. It's like that's not like I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to build this tension, but like
not too many people can do that. I mean, my Chowder Fat and Hard Boiled.
Oh my god,
that's a fucking amazing movie.
Yeah.
But not everybody can pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah. Did John Woo do Hard Boiled? I think so. Yeah. John Woo was
like that scene where they're in the hospital at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And then when he attacks the warehouse, it's like, man, nobody makes action movies like that anymore.
Yeah. Or Old Boy. Have you seen?
Oh, Old Boy's. That's a fucked up movie.
On Back and The Raid.
The Raid I've seen. I didn't like The Raid that much. I think because it seems like it was all filmed in like one building.
Because it was a raid on that building.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like Escape from New York, but in a building.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of dragged on for me. But John Wick. I mean, it's okay. I had a hard time. I guess this is where, in my case, I had a hard time buying into this like fictional world of like, there's the like private assassins club.
Oh, see, I'm totally into that. I was totally into that. But what did you think of the gunplay?
It was okay for the most part, but I mean, also you're like, okay, bro, why are you doing judo with these guys when you have a gun?
Well, see, I can accept that too. I mean, it's the same thing. Like,
it's like the Expendables, where you see the same thing. Like, who's the Jet Li? And there's a whole scene where like he has an M4 in his hand, and he's just like beating the hell, like clobbering people with it, using it as like a club. It's like, why don't you just shoot him?
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. So for me, like John Wick was like technically just awesome. Like the tactical shooting, the
driving and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Especially the shooting, the action scenes were just top notch. So then you go from that to the Punisher, and the Punisher goes back to the old style of very dramatic pauses before like pulling the trigger. I just felt like the action in the Punisher,
it was like muted.
Yeah, it's like I think it was. I don't remember which episode.
There's that one where he's in prison and he beats the shit out of like 10 guys. That was a very well done scene.
Yeah, but that's because they were trying to redo the hall scene from
Old Boy.
No, well, from Old Boy,
where he has a hammer.
But okay. So they were trying to redo the scene, the hallway scene from Daredevil, and Daredevil, which was an amazing scene.
Yeah, no, it was.
And Daredevil was redoing the hallway scene from Old Boy. But
it was the microwave at the guy.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Daredevil was really well done, man. I'm kind of sorry that it got canked.
Yeah, me too.
That second season with Elektra in it.
Yeah, it was by far. I had such
Vincent D'Onofrio playing Kingpin.
Oh my god, he did such a good job.
Where he was speaking in Mandarin for like 5 minutes at a time. It's like, damn.
I had such high hopes for Punisher after Daredevil. Then, but the Punisher, it's like. I don't care what people's politics are, honestly. But if you're going to do a show like The Punisher, where the guy is a vigilante and uses guns and kills people, you can't hate yourself for it. You can't do it begrudgingly because you think it puts out a bad message about gun violence or whatever. Like,
So yeah, I mean, this was the thing with the Punisher series. Like my problems with it, the action scenes were kind of muted.
They were just so stated, and tactically they were horrible.
Yeah, but beyond that was just that they turned it into like a freaking soap.
It was a soap opera. That's what I tell people. It's like I didn't even make it through the second season because first off, both seasons like they played this post traumatic stress thing, basically. What they're doing is they're recalling the post-traumatic stress mania or hysteria of Vietnam. Like somebody's in your office space, wearing the guy next door wears camera all the time, and pretty soon he's just gonna flip out because Charlie's in the wire.
Like Riggs in Lethal Weapon.
Right, and even that though they didn't, but he was never gonna snap on his friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the thing is, like, post-traumatic stress. Generally, if a person is gonna there's such a tiny possibility of somebody doing somebody else harm because of post-traumatic stress. If anything, they're gonna harm themselves. And so they played it so hard to where it was just
oh my god. Yeah.
And how many times do I have to watch a lifetime? It's like, oh my god.
The other thing was the bro talk between his fellow Marines and stuff was just so bad. That whole scene where they have to run the gauntlet and punch each other and this is just silly.
Yeah, it's just a day at work. So here are a few of my criticisms of Punisher. First off,
you got more than one.
Yes. First off, they went with the whole political statement that it was his best friend, his brother, who was going to kill him. And the thing is, I saw that as soon as they introduced, I hope nobody's seen this because these are spoilers, but as soon as they introduced his friend, and Ann said he would, he had this Blackwater company, and I was like, oh shit, he's the villain. And in that case, if they were really brothers in arms to that degree, where they kind of grown up together, then there should have been a redeeming change of heart at some point, not doubling down on him just being this cold mercy. They were playing stereotypes. They were playing to the stereotypes that I think they truly believe that exist. I would be hard pressed to think your best friend from the military might sneak behind your back and bang your wife, because he was an idiot and because she was an idiot, and you know what I mean? Stuff like that happens, but love is different. Love's not love, but lust is this drug. But to actually coldly plan to kill somebody who's your best friend, I just don't buy it.
I wish I could say I don't buy it. There was an incident when I was in Ranger Battalion where one Ranger had recently come into some money. He had $30,000, or a fairly small amount, but people get crazy.
Sure.
And another Ranger invited him out to look at his tree stand that he had built for hunting. And they went out into the woods together, and this dude who owned the tree stand stabbed the other guy in the neck with a screwdriver. And the dude went and ran and banged on some old lady's house, and I think he passed out on her porch. So there's kind of betrayals and just nasty stuff.
So yes, 100%, because people are people. But I'm talking about the way they played that was that they were brothers. I think they were best brothers. They were best brothers, in deep, and that I can't buy.
Yeah, I mean, the couple of dudes that I was in the military with that I'd consider best friends of mine. I mean, if you call me up right now and ask me for something,
right, 100%.
If it's humanly possible, I do it for them.
100%. 100%. There are dudes that I may not have talked to for years, but if they call me in need, man, I'll low crawl through through molten lava for him, if there's something I can do. So my issues with the Punisher is the whole like best friend thing, the shit tactics, like all these dramatic. I remember there was a fight in the garage, where he was hiding behind a box or a crate, and then he pops up, and instead of just capping the guy, and then getting back down and moving, like he stands there trying, and I know the director's trying to build this drama, but don't try to build the drama like that. Build the drama through escalating the scene, not through like this tense moment where he's standing behind the guy. Let's not.
It was like they struggled with the character, and this is something that I think you've seen recently in the Batman comics as well, is that this character does not hate himself. He's not like a self-loathing.
Right.
Maybe, he's kind of depressed, but he's not like this self-hating person.
Right.
Like, this is a person who has a mission.
Right.
And when you get down to it, you're in that, Detective Comics issue 1000. Okay, it's time to accept that Batman has avenged his parents' murder. Frank Castle, the Punisher, has been in hundreds and hundreds. He's been doing this since the Vietnam War, right? So he has avenged his family many times over, and you just have to accept the fact that they actually like what they do.
Right.
Like, this is what they're good at.
Right.
The Punisher's good at tracking down, hunting down, and killing criminals.
Right.
And he enjoys his work.
Right.
There was a comic book that a Punisher comic that Nathan Edmondson and Mitch Gerards did, where the Punisher, they show him in the scene, he takes a javelin missile and fires it at this mafia guy's corner office in this skyscraper, this big office building. And this javelin missile goes in there and blows up, kills everything, there's fire coming down and everything. And the very next scene is the Punisher sitting in the diner, and he's got a cup of coffee in his hand, he's smiling and laughing. And I was like, that is the character. Right. That would put him in a really good mood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And here's the thing is that I think that with a lot of the current crop of writers and whatnot, that I don't know.
They're not comfortable with him.
Right.
They feel like there's real life implications.
Right. I think that they simply write off these driving forces, these dark forces, but they're still driving forces. These driving forces that these characters have, they write them off as toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And that they must have inner turmoil about what they do. And the thing is,
they feel guilt about killing criminals.
The thing is that they just don't, there's a portion of guys in every war who never come home. They're like, it's in their blood. And if America's not fighting, they're going to go find somebody who is. And they spend the rest of their life with that, not because of some inner turmoil, but because they love it.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that they would be a serial killer.
No. And see, that's the thing.
There's some, and I don't think neuroscience has even pinned it down, but there's some small, minute change in the human brain, the trigger between the two.
Well, you took the MMPI, right, for sniper, right? So when you become a sniper in the special operations community, everybody has to take the Minnesota mental, whatever it is.
It's a huge questionnaire.
Yeah. So basically, it's a psych eval, and because they want to make sure that you're not going to go off. So I remember.
Make sure Dave's not going to be up in a belt.
Exactly. So I remember taking mine, and then afterwards the psych comes in to talk to you a little bit, and and I was just kind of joking around with him, and I was like, oh, so how'd I do, and he goes, oh, you did what was expected, and I go, well, what's that? And he goes, well, you have some sociopathic tendencies, but you're not a sociopath, and he goes, that's really the special operations, most of the special operations community across the board. And and again, not a sociopath, just this ability to compartmentalize. But what drives somebody in the special operations community, generally, I believe, is the idea that there is a purpose, a justification, but an overarching. It's a form of service that makes it okay in a certain context, but nothing that you would dream of outside of that context.
Well, I think the same thing you're talking about is how like the public and I guess journalists, but the public at large, they the soldiers, they take these like drone footage and helmet cam footage and overlay it with heavy metal music, like there's these deployment videos,
right?
And they're like horrified by it. It's like, well, you deploy young men to combat, you send them to go do these extraordinary things that are beyond the normal human experience.
Well,
it's like,
now it is. And in America it is.
Right.
But across like a vast part of the world right now, it's not. It's like people's daily, it's their life.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that right now in America, yes, we are very comfortable, and so few people have to fight for what we have. And even you could argue that even, active duty members don't really have to fight for what we have, But the thing is to think that this isn't just a normal part of life for a vast swath of, of the population in the world and throughout history. Anyway, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh no, well, I was just saying that there's like this kind of shock and surprise about that. And I think it's similar with, like you were describing with a character like that who exhibits some sociopathic tendencies that they kill people without remorse.
Right.
And people feel uncomfortable by that.
Right.
And I think it's, you can have there's a whole deeper conversation you could have there about the civil military divide and that there's just this bulk of our population that is just totally out of touch.
Right.
With what they have been sending them as citizens and taxpayers and voters, what they've been sending young men to do for the last almost 20 years now.
Right.
And that somebody like Frank Castle would come back home is something that scares the hell out of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And actually, Frank Castle would not be my main concern because at least he's going after bad guys.
Right.
My main concern would be somebody who becomes a real terrorist.
Right.
Murdering innocent people. And I'm sad to say I don't think we have seen really the full social fallout of the war quite yet.
See, one of the things is that if a veteran were to come home and do something like that, then I would say that they were already doing things like that in war, and I would say that they probably tortured animals when they were kids. You know what I'm saying? Is that
like somebody like Timothy McVeigh?
Yeah, I don't think that.
If McVeigh had not been in the Gulf War, I'm not so sure that he would have gone down that road.
Possibly. Who knows? Maybe there is an idea that. But did McVeigh fight in the Gulf War?
He saw war. He saw violence. He saw people getting killed. I don't know that he was in heavy combat or anything, but his takeaway from the Gulf War was that he felt that America was the bad guy. That America was a bully.
But see, that was a political takeaway. That wasn't. He got a taste of killing and decided to keep going.
Correct.
So again, that goes back to my point that if a veteran were to come back and do something, it's like when they were talking about posting, armed guards at schools. And I had friends on Facebook that all of a sudden, were going, oh no, they might have post-traumatic stress and they might snap and shoot the kids. I would message them privately and I would say, please stop. I was like, first off, here are the statistics on post-traumatic stress. It's not like that. It doesn't happen like that.
It's from movies like Rambo. People have this idea of a guy coming home from Vietnam and just going nuts and shooting.
See, Rambo didn't go nuts. Rambo, you know what I'm saying? He didn't snap. He was,
he was tortured by it.
He was tortured by it,
But he was running around town with an M60.
Right. But I think that more it comes from this, again, from that whole Vietnam era of this hysteria. I remember in the 70s, TV shows and movies, I don't remember specifically any of them, but where they would show these veterans that would just snap. And it's like, that's, if anything, he's going to go home, he's going to drink, sit on his couch and drink himself into a stupor and then contemplate killing himself.
Yeah. When you talk to people who really have PTSD, it's more like, daddy's crying at the kitchen table and doesn't know why.
Right.
It's very different.
Right. Now, look, I'm not saying that for people, that there's not, some people don't have like an elevated, anger or whatever else. But there's a huge, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, you can see it, it was interesting with the Punishers, like they really, with a Netflix series, like you could see the press going after it and trying to describe it as like fascism. And there's this one article in The Guardian, and it was interesting because they were trying to say, well, there's this white nationalist and he once wore a Punisher t-shirt. So therefore the Punisher is a white nationalist and blah, blah, blah. And it was interesting because like, I've worked as a journalist, so I can see the edits in the article where the editor came in and chopped it up. And if you get further down the article, it's actually pretty clear that the author actually like read Punisher comics and understood it and was saying how like Garth Ennis's take on like the Vietnam War and the Tet Offensive was like very accurate. So like you could tell he read the comics and had put some thought into it.
Right.
But the editors came in and were like, oh, he's a Nazi.
Yeah, I just recently, I didn't read the article because I just like I refuse to respond to clickbait. I don't want to give pages views. But I just recently saw a headline from some journalist about Americans. What was it? Americans Americans need to stop idealizing the Spartan culture. That it's a problem. And the thing is, first off. Nobody, like, yes, I love certain aspects of Spartan culture, but it's not something that, like, I think about and try to live my life by. And here's the other thing. If we look at...
We throw our kids off a cliff.
Yeah, exactly. And engage in slavery so that we can just train for war and all the work is done by others. But the thing is that there are certain things to admire in the Spartan culture. This idea of
the aesthetic.
Yes, well, not just the aesthetic, but the devotion to cause. Come home with your shoulder on it. Come and take it. And the idea that people were willing to lay down their lives in what they knew was a suicide mission. To give other people a chance.
Well, there is a certain type of people out there who they are like 24/7 just trying to like deconstruct Western civilization.
Right.
Captain America is a Nazi.
Right.
Here's my hot take on the Spartans 3,000 years later.
Exactly.
Actually, they were bad. They were bad.
Yeah.
The Betsy Ross flag is racist. There are people like they just churn away at this nonsense every fucking day. And they have an agenda.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because, I think that that's
I'm not
fading.
I think it rhymes with Marxism, is what I think.
Yeah, it 100% does. But the thing is I think that's fading. You see all these large, clickbaity media companies now laying people off, going out of business, losing $1 billion of value. Was it Gawker Media that went from like $1 billion down to like 1 million?
Maybe BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed laid off a lot of people.
But I think Gawker Media, when they were bought for like, they were like $1 billion, and when they were sold for like 3 million. So I think that the majority of Americans are like done. They're like tired of it. Like we people in general, I believe. Just want to live their lives. Like if they see an injustice, they want to stand against it. When we are committing injustice, often we are completely unaware that we are. And this goes for the left and the right. You know what I mean? Like there's,
You think you're the good guy?
We all look. Everybody. Mao thought he was a good guy. Pol Pot thought he was like. well, I don't know, Pol Pot, but but in their own minds, they find a way, they rationalize it, and we're always a good guy. That's why you can't have political conversations anymore because everybody's the good guy. And
everybody's the white knight.
Yeah, everybody's the white knight. So yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the things that's happened with the Punisher. I mean, Captain America being a Nazi was just like kind of one of the biggest fuck yous.
Yeah.
Ever. A Hydra agent. It's like.
It's like deliberately fucking with the audience.
Well, and the thing is it's crazy because they are destroying their business. They're destroying, like Marvel Comics, DC Comics, like they're destroying their business. These indie comic, makers, the funding on like Indiegogo or GoFundMe or whatever, like they're pulling in sales that, rank them in the top 10 comics, and we're talking, all these comic book stores are going out of business, and that might be in part,
it's really sad too, because if you think about it, I mean, comic books are a miracle in this day and age because like publishing and dead tree media, so to speak, legacy media, I mean, have really gotten hit hard by the internet and by self-publishing and all that kind of stuff. But that we have magazine format, full color, full original art, and writing comic books, like hundreds of them coming out every week is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
Hundreds of them,
but that they're killing it through, pushing these like weird political agendas that the readers don't really care about. That's just really sad.
And look, I believe that the response would be the same is if they went, far right.
Yeah. Because nobody cares.
And
no one cares who Spider-Man votes for.
Right.
We're just not interested.
No.
I don't care who Batman votes for.
No. That's why you read comics is the escapist aspect of it.
And it speaks to something deeper too.
Yes.
Like, even the Punisher speaks to something deeper. It's not left or right. It's, a vigilante hunting down evil people.
Well, which is, we were talking about this earlier, which is the reason why, I personally never got into Superman because
he's too perfect.
He's too perfect, and even until they started writing more complex storylines for him and things like that, there was nothing to identify with.
My friend Alex, and I want to have him on this stream at some point, specifically to talk about the Batman versus Superman movie. And
does he rage?
No, I actually really like the movie.
But does Alex rage?
I don't think he'll rage about it, but he wrote a thesis paper about how Superman was our pre-9/11 hero and Batman was the post-9/11 hero. That society moved somewhere darker and that we related to a darker form of justice versus previously we would have latched on it. Superman is definitely the 1950s white picket fence hero.
Wait, but when did Dark Knight come out? Not the movie, but the
comics.
Yeah.
That's in the 80s. That was in the 1980s.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, maybe that's part of it.
Yeah. Well, look, I believe that all human beings have this shadow self, right? And unless we are just raging sort of assholes who are looking to get in fights with everybody or whatever else, we suppress these aggressive instincts and redirect them or whatever. Now, violence or and I don't just mean physical violence, but the intent to cause harm of some sort to another human being, that sort of exists within all of us, and we have to acknowledge that and manage it in that way when we're feeling like that.
Right, to pretend it's not there is very dangerous.
Yes, and what's even more dangerous is to pretend that when we're doing it, that A, we're not doing it, or B, that they deserve it. When you see certain people, who are media representatives or celebrities or whatever else, talking about punching, a 16-year-old kid, these what was the kid's name? I don't remember, but the Sandman, the kid who allegedly smirked at the Native American.
The Covington.
The Covington.
Yeah.
The stolen valor.
Native American.
But when you have people talk about punching in the face, they are doing they don't recognize their own hostile intent, and if you call them out for it, then they say, well, it's always okay to punch a Nazi, and it's sort of like, well, see, here's the thing:
when you recontextualize everything as being about Nazis,
100%
everything's justified.
100%.
And this is what the right did during the Cold War: is that if you contextualize everyone as a communist, then whatever you do to them is okay.
Right.
Because we're facing the specter of nuclear annihilation here, pal.
Right.
So if I go and I wipe out a village in Honduras, hey, bro.
Right.
Communism.
And look, I mean, this is a human trait, and to
othering.
Othering is a human trait, and to put it all on one group of people, no matter who you are, if you're a neo-Nazi and you're putting it on one group of people, or if you're sort of a Marxist or sort of a way left person and you're putting it on another group of people, you don't recognize that you are essentially repeating the history of humanity.
Right.
You are just. And of course you feel justified for doing it, because everybody throughout history has felt justified of doing it. Look, if we need that oasis, and the other people need that oasis, they're the other people. We are going to take that oasis,
And that's why, what sometimes is called transformational leadership is so rare. Somebody who can really change conditions.
Yeah.
Or form a grassroots movement and lead people somewhere new, somewhere different.
Right.
As opposed to just repeating the same shit over and over.
Well, I think that good leaders they understand I don't know that we can stop people from othering. We can't stop humanity from othering, because othering is really how we bind, right?
It's in our DNA.
It's how we, it's how we bond. It's like if we're veterans and then there are civilians, like one of the things that, we have in common is veterans. And if we're not careful, then we'll get on this veteran high horse,
think you're so much better than everyone else.
Right. Or if, for instance, we talk about DC and Marvel. Well, some people like both, and some people, that's the battle, that's the other they will do, is the Marvel versus DC. Or it could be Chevy versus Ram, or Chevy versus Dodge, or
Yankees,
Dodge, and that Yankees and Mets. Like, that's just how we do it, and that suddenly we have a community, right? We have a community. So I think that, if you look at the space race, for instance, the space race is a good example of how a leader can understand that, look, people are going to do this anyway. Like, it's human nature, we can't. So how do we get people to feel patriotic? Is we give them an outside other, but we don't...
You guide them in a positive way.
Right, but we don't do it in a way that is...
Like, we're going to go to the moon, we're not going to start up death camps.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to beat them to the moon.
Yeah.
And then, when we do, it's like our sports team winning, and we say, we won. So I think that's one of the things for transformational leadership is to find an outside. I mean, it's funny because I just rewatched the entire 9 seasons of The Office, and there were a couple times in there where unwittingly, Michael Scott, became the enemy, and in doing so, brought the group together. And then when he realized that's what happened, he felt all proud of himself, because he became the other.
Yeah, it's like the mommy-daddy relationship. It's like being in the army where, the officer, is a dick and he's telling you to do things you don't want to do, but then, the platoon sergeant comes over and puts his arm on, come on, buddy,
Yes, the good cop, bad cop
together now.
And look how the Army does. Like, I remember in Marine boot camp, like, you know, the drill instructors in the Marines, more than the Army and the Navy, those are the only other two boot camps I went to, so I don't know. Yeah. But the drill instructors are masters of, breaking people down, making you basically compete, first off with each other for their approval. Then eventually bonding together, because now you're competing against, the other platoons and the other companies. And then in the very end, you get hit, they give you their, like on the last day, graduation day, before you get to graduation, that's when they give you their approval. So that when you go in, it's you against that officer up there who is giving the address, and then, the military does it by, Army versus Navy, so anyway, so it's interesting that, all this from a talk about The Punisher. Oh, and my final criticism of The Punisher TV series, I hated the whole support group shit, the white nationalist shit, all that stuff.
Was that in there?
That was in the first one. Oh, no, the series.
The
MCU, the Marvel TV show is what I'm talking about.
The Punisher show.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Like I said, I was literally falling asleep during some of those episodes.
Yeah. And then, his buddy in the second season, like his buddy being a special ops guy and getting these other vets who are mostly legs, and then running rehearsals for 3 days to knock over a check cashing place and getting there and realizing that this grenade doesn't even fit in the thing. It's like some special ops guy you were like, whatever. Like you didn't anyway.
It's like every scene didn't really make sense.
It was. Like I said, I couldn't even make it through. I got so tired of just the hammering on the post-traumatic stress, making it all an issue.
It's like the Punisher had no tactical wherewithal. He was just really good at getting punched in the face.
And shot. It's like, dude, take cover. That is my thing. I would just get outraged how many times that guy got shot. It's like, didn't they ever teach you? I'm up, he sees me, I'm down. Like, move.
And they also brought back Microchip from the comics, who was never an inspiring character to begin with. Microchip was never a lot of fun. And that first one where he comes back and they did like a thing where it was like Lost, where there was a dead man switch, and there's like a whole episode built around that. And it was like Lost, where the thing keeps
I never watched it.
And in Lost, there's like 3 seasons where it's really about like they find a clock on the wall and it's ticking down to 0, and there has to be somebody there to hit a button to reset the clock. And it's like some sort of like almost like a Stanley Mildrum social experiment where it's like, what happens when you get down to 0? No one knows. But are you guys dumb enough that you will sit there and keep hitting the button just because you're scared?
Right.
And that was, it was like a whole episode of The Punisher where, Microchip had like a dead man switch and like, oh, if it goes down to 0 and I'm not here to put the code in, the whole place will blow up. And it's like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
Who wrote this show?
Yeah. And didn't they have, it's Netflix, couldn't they afford like a tactical advisor?
Bro, for the amount of money they have, I could probably hire, like an SF guy, a SEAL, a Ranger, a Force Recon dude, and just get like the best of everyone. And whichever one of you 4 or 5 guys has the best idea, I'm just going to use it and make a kick-ass TV show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if they had like a low budget, they couldn't afford to pack like tons of action scenes into it. They still could have done like some espionage stuff, some detective stuff. They could have.
Well, that's the thing, is that they made him such a shallow, one-dimensional character.
You're right. I'm slamming a sledgehammer into the wall.
What's his name? The actor.
John Bernthal.
Like, he was phenomenal.
He's a good actor.
And he was right for the part.
Yeah. I agree.
I really enjoyed Thomas Jane.
Yes.
As the Punisher. The movie was fun. It wasn't like deep Punisher. Like, I thought Warzone was a better Punisher movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I had a hard time with Warzone. I mean, there were funny parts of Warzone, but overall I didn't like it that much.
Have you seen Dirty Laundry?
Oh, the short that was
Yes.
with Tom Jane. Yeah,
Yes.
I did see it.
Yeah. Now that, if you guys haven't seen Dirty Laundry with Thomas Jane, like look up Dirty Laundry by Thomas Jane on YouTube.
It's cool.
It's really, really good. It's a lot of fun. The whole, how many times he got shot in that series is just insane. It's like, dude, take cover. Even in like the first
episode where he gets shot in the ass.
I mean,
that whole first episode where like he meets the girl in the bar and takes her home and they have this human experience together. Like, what this isn't Frank Castle. What is this?
I have a friend who got shot in the ass in Somalia, and it affects him to this day. You know?
Really?
Yeah, and so it's like, to just walk away with, every time you get shot, to walk, apparently cavitation doesn't exist in their world because, it's like a stab wound that just goes in and he takes it out and he's fine. It's like, oh my God, man.
There's a lot of problems in that show.
There's so many problems in
that show.
And the thing is, like, they did Daredevil so right. And I think that one of the challenges, and I don't know if it was completely different people working on it or whatever, but I think one of the things was Daredevil didn't kill people. Daredevil, so there wasn't that sort of moral dilemma where I'm writing this, but I hate this, and in order to justify that he's doing this, I have to show exactly how broken he is. You know what I mean?
I even got frustrated with Daredevil though, with like his whiny friends, and they keep telling, "Stop being Daredevil, stop being Daredevil."
Yeah. We're just in a period of history, and it'll pass, but we're in a period of history where we used to, like, lying about what was good in your life, was the trend. Now lying about what's bad in your life is the trend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you get more clout off of being, miserable or a victim or depressed or, things not going well. You get more clout off that than you do than what used to be the traditional things that, people would lie about, like how great things were and this and that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I see it on social media and especially like on Twitter. Where it's just all these people like basically bragging about like how broken they are and about their alcoholism, and it's not like this is bad. It's like they're saying it as if it's a good thing. Like, I'm this broken down person. Look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this isn't healthy. Like, this isn't healthy for you. And by being on that platform, I have this creepy feeling like I'm participating in your mental health issues.
See,
I'm a part of it. You're like, I'm a part of it just by viewing this. Like, there's this sick voyeurism.
I get on Facebook. I'll go like a couple months sometimes without getting on Facebook anymore. Like, I used to get on, every day. And then after a while, it just got to be too much. If it wasn't, all the constant political stuff from the left and the right, people on Facebook are generally my friends, and I like them. And so I want to know what's going on in their life, because that's, you don't call 60 of your friends or whatever, every week. So, or even every year really sometimes. So Facebook and those things became,
it's a way to stay in touch with your family.
Yeah, it's a way to see what's going on in people's lives and this and that, Yeah. But then with the politics and then with the this is, really hard for me to say or whatever, and making, I don't know, I guess I'm more of a private person, like sometimes some of the stuff that people say on Facebook just seems like a really big overshare,
Yeah.
But then it feeds that, because I know, there's scientific research about likes and the dopamine rush and things like that, the validation. when people, oh, you're so strong, you're so brave, or you're this or you're that, and then somebody else, even if they're doing it subconsciously, they don't know they're doing, they see that and they go, well, I want that too. And it's funny because we're all animals, we're a mammal, and we forget that just like mammals, we are trained, and a lot of times it's not it's not somebody training us, a conscious trainer, but we're trained by the social cues we're given, we learn.
In the structure of these social media platforms, it's like shaping our behavior.
100%.
And I've tried really hard. Like I used to see people posting stupid stuff on there and confront them about it. What the fuck is wrong with you? But I'm trying real hard to have empathy for people. And when I see that stuff, I try to remind myself, yes, what that person is writing on there is ridiculous, but that person is hurting. This is like their little thing, their little outlet, and it's not to justify what they're doing to themselves or others, but it's they're doing this because they're not in a good place in life.
That's true. Well, that might be true, but it also might be, look, Buddha talked about dukkha, right? Or this idea of disjointedness, that every human being feels out of place in the world.
Right.
We all feel a little out of joint, just not quite right. And so if we don't acknowledge that and accept that and take that on board, that when we feel that way, then we project those feelings onto other people, that they're the reason I feel this way, or we interpret it in a way that may not be beneficial. So I think that when somebody achieves something, for instance, when I got my first commercial, and people on Facebook were messaging me, and I didn't even post anything on Facebook about the commercial, just because I said, I'm not really on, maybe I did, I don't know, maybe my first one, I don't recall. But the thing is that it felt good when people, that I hadn't heard from them for a couple of years, whatever, were, messaging me, go, hey, I saw you, it felt good. So, but then the thing comes along, is how many times in our daily life do we, achieve something, or do we accomplish something in which people are going to give us honest praise, honest kudos, and give us that sense of, belonging and appreciation and things like that. So again, like I said, I think that things people used to do on social media, Facebook and things like that, is people used to elevate their life a little bit, talk about all the time, talk about the right things so that people would give them that praise.
And on Twitter, people will say you won't believe what just happened.
Right.
And 100% what they're about to say after that line is bullshit.
Right.
That never happened.
Right.
But this is how you get little hearts in this world.
No shit, there I was.
Yeah, exactly.
Deep in hand grenades.
Exactly.
But I think that now we have found, not we, but our subconscious has found that it's easier to be troubled and get that same type of appreciation, and we can do it more regularly than by going out and striving in the world and trying to create something or generate something or accomplish something or whatever that will get us that. So it's funny because I went to years ago. I went to a bar with my sister. She came to visit New York, and I went to a bar with her, and it was a bar down in the Meatpacking District, I think. And the bar was actually split into two different big rooms, and the doorway or the path, it was a large door that was more than a hand, more than an arm's span across, and probably about 8 feet high. And we were sitting near it at this table, this little two-top, and this guy was standing right in the middle of it. And when girls would pass by, he'd kind of touch their shoulder and kind of look down on them, and then kind of give them this like, what are you doing? And walk by. And my sister goes, why is he doing that? And I told her, I said, he doesn't even know he's doing that. Like, he is sort of on autopilot right now. And I guarantee you what happened was, one time, whether it's this bar or another bar, he bumped into a girl in a doorway like that, and they hit it off.
Yeah.
Right? And his subconscious mind goes, oh, effective strategy to get what I want, right? And so we can get programmed just like that. And we have these drivers that just happen reflexively. We don't even really get a chance to respond to them a lot of times, unless we practice some form of mindfulness or whatever, sort of to create that buffer. Now, we can become aware of it after the fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a rat that learns you press down on the lever and a little food pellet comes out.
100%. But the thing is that right. So the thing is like we can learn by accident. Like if we do something one time and our parents get scared and yell at us because they're scared, like we will learn. We can subconsciously take on a program just from that, right? And so anyway, with this guy standing there, and I told her, I was like, he doesn't realize it happened one time, and his brain, his subconscious mind latched on this idea, that's an effective strategy. And now he just does it, and he's in a completely, like, unconscious state. Like, if he saw somebody else doing that, he would think they were an idiot. Not, you know what I mean? And we do that, like, a lot of times when people are, go, oh, look at what that person's doing, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I get it, and it's dumb, and it's this, it's that. It's like, but I would never do that. And it's like, yeah, I know, like, you wouldn't, but you do stuff. Like, you don't even know the stuff you do because it's,
right.
You're doing it like a robot. You know what I mean? So the thing is, like, that's how fast we can take on this programming. So social media.
It's like, I thought about taking my rain jacket with me to come here because it looked like it was going to rain out. And I didn't pack it in my bag because it was underneath some other clothes. And I was like, I don't want to go digging through there, even though it would have taken me 2 seconds.
More important, why didn't you tell me? Because I would have brought an umbrella.
I thought, I assumed that you would have known.
See, I never look outside. I need an app that basically alerts me. Not even like an app that I can check, like my weather app. I need an app that like works on what is it? Not RFID, but the near field NFS. Is that what it is? But basically, I need an app that triggers when I get to the door that goes beep. Take a coat. Beep, take an umbrella. Because I never check. And man, when it comes like to spring or fall, I can look at the temperature outside and I never know what I should be wearing for that temperature. It's like, it's 50. I was like, oh, do I need a jacket or a coat? Or will I be, like, I know I need a coat if it's 30. And I know I don't need one if it's 80. Pretty much anywhere in between that, like, I need to know what level of...
This is part of our blind spot as men. We don't do this very well. Women bring a scarf when it's 70 degrees out. We don't do this very well.
I wonder how much of it has to do with the military too, like dealing with the suck so much. Like especially like in Fort Lewis.
Yeah, what you're willing to tolerate
exactly.
is a little different.
Yeah, 100%. Well, what I'm willing to tolerate used to be a little bit different. I'm like I'm so spoiled now, man. I'm just like, if I go like hot shower, oh, forget about it. Like my friends go, hey, let's go camping. I'm like, no. Why would we do that? Why? Well, we have apartments with roofs and air conditioning and refrigerated goods. Why would we go camping?
There's a few people jumping in here. So if anyone has any questions, comments, anything like that, throw them, because we'll probably wrap up in the next 10 minutes or so, I think. So
yeah, for sure.
Throw them in there. One person asked what the theme is of this episode. It's an extended criticism of the Punisher Netflix series, which we segue into our thoughts on any social and political issue that comes to the top of our mind.
World peace, man. World peace.
Can't wait till you upgrade your studio's acoustics. Well, yeah, me too. There's actually, we do need to do like some soundproofing in here. I also got some interesting comments from people who are like, man, you guys really need microphones. And you can't see it. Hold on. Microphones.
We should do a fundraiser for like some sound blankets and stuff like that.
We could do that. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that actually. Well, okay, you're in frame. Now that you mentioned that, we do have a Patreon page set up that people can go and support us. And thank you to the, I think there's like 15 people or something that are already supporting us on Patreon. And thank you very much for that. And I'm actually going to jump over and grab the link and post it in the comments right now so people can find it. So you can support us on Patreon, and what that money is going to be used for is to support the stream. It's going to pay rent on the studio. It's going to help us get upgrades, the acoustic stuff we were just talking about, more cameras. We're going to work on some lighting solutions also. So that's basically what it's going to be used to support the podcast itself.
And also, as a response to what's the theme? One of the themes is we don't really know what the theme is 100%. So we would love some input into, we're both veterans. We've both been in combat. We are politically aligned in some ways, I guess, and like any two human beings, see things differently in other ways. We can talk about news, whether it's, we were talking about possibly covering some international news that the media just doesn't report on anymore because
there's very little reporting. It's on like page 12,
right?
And it kind of gets like brushed under the
right. And you can't watch mainstream media because basically mainstream media has they cover 2 news stories or 3 news stories a day, and they just run that cycle over and over.
I'm trying to figure out the theme and the tone of the stream. I feel like the 700 people or whatever who are 800. How many is it now? However many subscribers we have, a lot of people probably followed me here expecting me to continue interviewing interesting people.
And we can definitely do that. I love that.
In the intelligence community, in the military, and I would definitely like to keep doing that.
Sure.
But I think I also want to broaden our horizons a little bit. I'd like to continue talking about like the, superhero movies and comic books, and we can talk about books and novels and all that kind of stuff. I like to throw all of that in there into a big mishmash. I don't want it just to be telling war stories.
Sure.
Yeah.
There I was, knee deep in Henry.
So let's see here. Okay. Has the overall U.S. plan in Syria been talked about on your podcast yet? I'm a total geopolitical nut and would love it if your podcast ends up containing that down the line. First time watching. So thank you for watching. This is our 3rd episode. Technically, we did an episode 0, so 2nd episode, really. So no, we haven't really gotten into that.
We can definitely talk about it, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the U.S. policy in Syria is incredibly complicated, and it has been even more complicated with some of the seesawing of the Trump administration going back and forth. And it's just like our relationships around much of the world with this administration. You just saw this big blow up with Denmark, of all countries, that our friends and allies around the world are not really sure where we stand right now. So that compounds the problem. But we can talk about that.
Well, I think that goes into the larger issue of American foreign policy in general. Just because, I think that Arab Spring was a absolutely horrible idea, and for us to throw our support, I think that invading Iraq was not well thought out, and the idea of removing somebody like Saddam Hussein. After we'd already seen what happened in Yugoslavia when Tito was no longer there. Like, you know, American foreign policy is just not.
And we did it again in Libya. It's a mess.
Yeah. So like I hate to just focus on the Trump administration because I think it's a really long-term problem, and I think that one of the problems that Trump has is there's no united front. We have a lot of globalists, a lot of expansionists, and whatnot. I mean, if you look at like some of the things that I believe that Trump wants to end these unending wars. You listen to somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who's a veteran and also wants to end these, and then you look at the way the mainstream media treats her.
It throws her under the bus.
They throw her under the bus constantly. I believe that I don't know about Reagan, but because Reagan was president when I was in high school, and I wasn't super aware of politics at the time, and I wouldn't say that I'm super aware of politics in general. It's something that I try not to poison myself with too much. But I would say that since Bush, we have Bush and Obama or Clinton, Bush and Clinton, Obama. I don't think it's a Republican or Democrat thing. I think that we have very corporatist pressures and influence in United States foreign policy, and and I look at somebody like Trump or Tulsi Gabbard or even Bernie Sanders, who want to disengage, whether or not you agree with other aspects of their politics or whatever else. There's still the idea of what are we fighting for? I mean, I do believe that in Vietnam there was a very real fear of the domino theory, and it actually happened. The fear was realized. I think that our issue there was that we didn't go in with a clear idea of victory, just like in Afghanistan and Iraq, and
like in Afghanistan, we don't want to draw down and admit the reality of the matter.
Right. The thing is that it's one thing to be an occupying force. Like we occupied Japan. I mean, you could argue that we're still occupying Japan in some ways, but we occupied Japan for years, and there were insurgents. There were the Japanese wolves or werewolves. I can't remember what they were, but there were insurgents. But we still had what could be termed a victory, a military victory, a signed, peace. Since Korea, though, we have not had a firm plan going into any of these wars.
It's because we're like hedging our bets on every single one of them.
Right.
We're trying to calibrate. We don't want to fully commit, but we also don't want to fully disengage.
Right.
And that is, largely related to America's unique role in the world, that we can go around and pick and choose which battles we want.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And the thing is that, it's interesting to see when the right calls for action in certain parts of the world and when the left calls for action in certain parts of the world, and how both sides blame the other side for either being cowards or hawks when it doesn't align. I mean, when Trump decided not to bomb,
it's all the right just motivates people with like jingoism and racism and go bomb the brown people, and the left is like, oh, human rights, we got to do this so that the women can have jobs and all this nonsense.
Well, I don't think it's
ridiculous.
I don't think it's that cut and dry.
It's not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really think that there is a right and left anymore. I think that it's all knee jerk. I mean, like I said, when Trump decided not to bomb Iran, I mean, the left went crazy on him. The media went crazy on him. It's like,
and what it shows is that there's no real principles.
Right. Exactly.
It's I remember hearing on NPR. It was after one of these mass shootings. It was a few years back, and Trump was like, well, we're going to increase background checks. We're going to do some things. He was basically capitulating to what the left wanted. And like I was listening to NPR in the car, I'm like, they were just going off on him. They're like, Trump can't do that, and here's why. And it like point. I'm like, he's telling you yes.
Right.
Why are you?
And the right did the same thing to Obama. In a number of cases. I think so. It's one of these things that I think that if you were to walk down the street and ask people what they thought about, first off, Americans tend to be very uninformed. And look,
we don't care about foreign policy.
Look, that's a privilege. We don't have to be because we are so. Here in New York, what people do in Africa or in the Middle East or even in Europe doesn't affect them. So, and then if we pick our news station, whether it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC, and they basically run 3 stories a day on repeat, and the way they get around that is by not actually reporting news, but just by having a bunch of people on there conjecturing. Well, what do you think will happen if this doesn't pass? It's like
in the talking heads.
Exactly.
Non-experts.
Meanwhile, there's active slave trade going on in Libya. Or you know what I mean? Like, just things that people. I don't know. But anyway, what I was saying is, if you walk down the street and ask people what their opinions are on certain things. People will kind of give you
foreign policies at the bottom of the
boilerplate. But if you ask them, what do you think of Trump's decision to do this, right? And it doesn't matter. You could be giving them a decision that Obama made,
right?
That Trump didn't have anything to do with, and they'll say, "Oh, I hate it." And then by the same token, if you take somebody on the right and go, what do you think about Obama's decision to do this? Well, I hate it. Well, actually, that was what Reagan. It was Reagan's. Reagan.
It's not about policies. It's about gotcha moments.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a very odd personification of the state that you normally see in like more authoritarian countries, like for instance in Syria. If you go and talk to people on the streets in Damascus, Assad is indistinguishable from the state of Syria. Right. Assad is the state. If you go to Kazakhstan. I think Nazarbayev just stepped down like a month ago. But my point, regardless, is people would see Nazarbayev as the state of Kazakhstan.
Right.
They are inseparable from one another.
Right.
And I feel like people in America more and more are seeing like King Obama and King Trump.
Right.
And this is the personification of the entire state of America.
Right.
And our system of governance is not designed to work that way.
No, and that's the thing is that. It should be the government works for us. The government is the representative of the people. And it should be the people almost against the government. The left should police the politicians on the left, the right should police the politicians on the right. But both sides give their politicians a pass because it's not so bad when they do.
Right.
A great example is it the governor of Virginia? With like the 3 sexual assault allegations or whatever, and you don't hear anything. He's still like the left gave him a huge pass. I think it was Virginia.
Really?
Oh yeah, a huge pass.
Because they did Al Franklin and all those guys. There were others that had to step down.
Well, I don't think they're afraid. See, I think that the problem in Virginia was
our Attorney General here in New York, Schneiderman. He had to step down.
Well, see, here
he was an ally, quote unquote.
I think the problem in Virginia though is that issues, whether it was sexual, being sexually appropriate or sexual assault, and I can't remember now because this was a while ago. One of the official, like his deputy or assistant governor, lieutenant governor, or whatever, had another issue, whether it was blackface in the state. It got down to where the next person in line was a Republican, and that was not acceptable. So, and again, this isn't a gig on the liberals because conservatives would most likely do the exact same thing to protect their hold on power, even if it's not even their hold on power, because none of these politicians. I was a bodyguard for a long time, and politicians are generally not highly principled people. Like they are there to win office. That their job is to get reelected. It's not
Full stop.
Full stop. Their job is to get reelected. You know, it's not to really serve their constituency. It's they serve their constituency so that they can get reelected.
Right. In as far as it gets them reelected.
Right.
Let's see some other questions here. War on Syria, China's long game for Hong Kong, how they will get around the international community, Iran, Ukraine, Venezuela, some big issues there. I mean, China doesn't seem to have any problem getting around this.
So, you know, the easiest way to put this with the China-Hong Kong thing is if we imagine that Hawaii decided, you know, that they wanted to secede from, you know, the United States. And I don't know if they can legally, but what I mean is, I mean, they're bigger, you know, they're, obviously what's going on in China, Hong Kong is different, but in terms of how it would be dealt with, do you think the United States would, like, really accept the international communities?
I believe what set off the whole thing in Hong Kong, and I'm not totally read up on it, admittedly, is that the Chinese, the mainland, was pushing for a law that would allow the extradition of Hong Kong citizens to mainland China for crimes against the state or whatever. And so this is like a cracking down on the semi-autonomy of Hong Kong.
Right.
Which is leading to these
right. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not, you know, comparing it to secession. What I'm saying is how a country would deal with something that they perceived to be theirs.
Yeah, but I don't think you can make a comparison when you have, you know, the U.S. government, which is democratically elected, and we have these military that's accountable to elected representatives, and we have social problems here in America, but like, we're not going to like send in the troops like iron fist the way the Communist Party in China is, because, you know,
would we not though?
I mean, if things got like really bad, but like if a state legalizes marijuana, we're not deploying the army to go and crush people in California. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, no, but true. But if you look at instances like Waco or Ruby Ridge or whatever, you know, we see that the government, like the government there's no such thing as the government as an entity, right? There are individuals within the government that are making decisions.
Yeah. And sometimes they fuck up.
Right. And sometimes like we're all humans. We all have an ego. We all have, you know, opinions of what's right and wrong. So the idea that if, you know, like I think they've proved that basically like police police and you know, Chinese operatives were in the riots and creating issues, were instigating, you know, and making it look like the rioters were doing more, like, you know, so we see these sort of ops going on that I don't think that China will really respond to the international community, just like I don't think America would respond to the international community.
No, it's a fact. China doesn't give a shit with the international community.
I mean, look, Russia.
That term, international community, is an invention. There's no such thing.
Right.
Really, I mean, the Filipinos went and petitioned the UN and the international community, and they talked The Hague ruled in their favor that China cannot be taking over these shoals and atolls and reefs off the coast of the Philippines. The Hague said that is illegal. China does not give a fuck. They keep doing exactly what they want to do.
Well, I mean, since when has the UN had any power at all? You know what I mean?
The Korean War, maybe?
Maybe. You know, I mean, America has really been the boot of the UN and you know,
yeah, I mean, the UN is really a debating club, and I mean, it's not that...
It's a chance for everybody to come to the United States, party it up here, you know.
That's part of it. I guess it's good that they communicate, but I mean, I guess my only point would be, let's not overestimate how much power and how much leverage and what they can accomplish. What we've seen over the years is that forming treaties, like bilateral treaties, like between us and Russia, are much more effective than the international community.
Right. Well, the international community, I mean, it's just, you know, it's not like your what is it like in a condo, your board who has the power to evict you? Anyway. But
you're gonna come at me with your army?
I know.
You ain't got no army.
Dave Chappelle skit.
Let's see what else we got here. I feel like it's easy for other countries to view U.S. foreign policy as being a gamble as per who gets elected.
Yeah, because we work in 4-year cycles.
Right.
So it's naturally schizophrenic. That's a drawback of democracy.
Right, and it's also like experientially very difficult to understand where other countries are coming from. When we're dealing with a leader of another country, our leaders don't, like if this leader is clinging to power and doesn't know if they're going to be in power tomorrow, it's very hard to operate, with our, the way, our familiarity with democracy and the way, anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really it. The same person is asking about the Turks trying to go into Syria with the FSA, which is, they've been doing that since 2014, propping up jihadi groups over there, and they're continuing to antagonize in Syria, which is another reason why it would probably be a bad idea for us to abruptly withdraw out of that country. But what's the end game going to look like? And I've written about that, talked about it before, or I think that inevitably the Kurds are going to have to be reintegrated into the Syrian state. And what form is that going to take? What is the Assad regime willing to accept as far as granting the Kurds their local autonomy? And I don't think anyone really has an answer to that question quite yet. And then if we withdrew prematurely, that vacuum would be filled probably by Turkey, just going in there and wreaking havoc. But likewise, if we facilitate the handing over and handing the reins over to the Assad regime, that's also inviting in the Russians. Are we prepared to do that? So again, it's a very complicated situation over there.
Right.
And how that pans out. If I had the answer to that, I probably wouldn't be working here. I'd probably be somewhere else.
Well, and there's no way to know, what would happen when we left. I mean, I think that we knew, when we took out Saddam, there was going to be a huge power bubble. Yeah, but we weren't ready for that, or not bubble, but a vacuum.
Not even remotely.
And we weren't ready for that.
So I think that's it. Is there anything else you wanted to get into, Dave? Because I'm not sure how long this has been running. Well, 111 minutes ago.
Yes, I think that's good. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah. Again, congratulations on finding the weird part of the internet. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the bell notification so that you can get notifications whenever we go live or we post new videos. What else? I posted the link to Patreon in the comments, and I'll put it down in the video description afterwards. If you like what we're doing, if you'd like to see us continue, if you'd like to see us expand and grow,
if you'd like to hear us better,
if you'd like us to eliminate the echo, I really appreciate you guys supporting us on Patreon. And otherwise, the only other thing we really had to plug was the other endeavor that Dave and I are working on with tabletop games and things like that called Arcadia Gaming. It's a separate channel, so we kind of separate the news and social commentary away from the gaming, which the gaming we don't want to get into politics
not at all. Yeah.
So you can go check that out if you're interested. If not, that's cool too. And we will try to set up. Well, the next thing we need to set up, figure out a better name for the live stream. I have a friend who's willing to do the graphics for it, so we put that up on YouTube. The sound issues, and what was the other thing that I wanted to work on? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank after,
We would really appreciate, for the people who do watch this, we would appreciate in the comments some feedback on what sort of direction you would like to see this particular stream go, in the sense that there are a number of things that we can't talk about. Obviously, you see some of the things we like talking about. We do like talking about international politics. We do like talking about comic books and gaming. We want to bring on people from, from different areas, both, the intelligence community, the military community, maybe even, the gaming community and the comic book community. If you can bear with that. Now I know that for some of you, you just want the gaming stuff or the geekdom stuff, and
I'd like to bring in some people I know and other people who have been recommended to me who write like military thrillers, like spy novels and stuff like that. Have authors come in.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. And we don't want to, obviously we need to. I mean, maybe we don't. I was going to say we need to have an identity because we would like you to stick with us, and we have so many different passions that it's. That we can ramble for 2 hours without any plan whatsoever when we started live streaming, and we rambled for like 2 hours here, so we had a plan. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And what I was going to say is that we should hammer out an actual schedule so that people know when we're going live.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
And
your people will get with my people.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
And if you like it, please subscribe. Hit that little bell so that you're alerted and you don't get Fox, CNN, and MSNBC all up in your feed.
Timmy here is asking for like news roundup.
News?
Like a news roundup.
Okay.
Which is something I've had other people talk to me about.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that too. Particularly news that isn't generally covered.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely a possibility, and maybe that's like the top of the show that we start with that.
Now is that national news, international news? I mean, cultural news,
military news,
like
defense and security. What do you want to focus on?
Yeah, and maybe there's not a focus. Maybe we a little smorgasbord, a little bit of this, and a little bit of that.
All right, guys. Thank you again. I'm going to go because I'm self-producing the show. I'm going to go around now and turn this thing off. Dave, if you want to smile into the camera and impress everybody with your
my devilishly
that looks good.
Average
That looks good. All right.
So how you doing?
See you guys next time.